5.2. Right. Freedom camping. Nick, you again.
I get all the good jobs. Unlike Kinloch, which was a simple issue, this one is fraught with difficulty. It's fraught with perceptions and stereotypes and misinformation. And it's been a real challenge for us as officers. We often when we come and talk to you and give you advice, we're talking about information we've analysed and we're giving you technical advice to assist your decision making. In this situation, there's pretty limited technical information that we have access to assist in the decision making process. What we do have is an abundance of different views. What's become quite clear as we've worked through this issue with the community and with a specific working group is that there are growing numbers of domestic and international visitors who wish to use freedom camping, at least in part in terms of their different journeys. We're seeing that increasing number of visitors using freedom camping starting to have an impact on the community and the things that the community values. And we're seeing that particularly in some of those key lakefront locations. In the past we've talked about the likes of Stump Bay and 5 Mile Bay and the Taupo Landing Reserve as real pinch points. Recently in a workshop you heard about the difficulties Genesis has had down into Kanu and the tensions that we've had there between freedom campers and people utilising the boat ramp. At the same time, there are positive economic impacts which are associated with freedom camping and this growth in visitor numbers. What's a little more debatable, I guess, is the level of that economic benefit that's derived. And MB's produced some statistical information, but of course when you're looking at this issue at a global sense, at a national scale, that necessarily doesn't translate into on-the-ground economic impacts in the Taupo community or the Turangi community. The fourth thing that's become very clear through this process is your decisions as governance, as council, and the decisions of others impact on each other and have flow-on effects. We've talked about the Landing Reserve and we've talked about 5 Mile Bay in particular as real pinch points. Those are areas which cater for a significant number of freedom campers at this point in time, but they're under the control of the Department of Internal Affairs and the Department of Conservation. So the decisions that those departments make impact on the sorts of volumes of freedom campers that we will have to cater for as a council. And likewise, your decisions about where you allow freedom camping may well displace campers onto, say, the Department of Conservation land. That's something you need to be very conscious of. Throughout the process, and particularly the feedback from the working group, there's been a reasonably consistent message about the desirability of moving freedom campers away from those lakefront locations, and particularly the points where people access the lakefront. That's about a desire to reduce those conflicts with day users, and if I use the Taupo Landing Reserve as an example, you've got people down there early looking to launch kayaks or go for a swim if they're training for multisport. They are finding it challenging negotiating their way through all the freedom campers who are currently located down there. There's also a desire to reduce the negative community perception that freedom campers are using the high value space, and I think we've seen a bit of this tension around Ferry Road as an example, where the community's provided feedback to suggest that they're not comfortable with freedom campers who are paying nothing monopolising what they perceive to be high value space. What you've also seen through more recent correspondence from the Tūwharatau Māori Trust Board is a tangata whenua review around concerns about freedom campers and their behaviour, particularly around water and their interface with water. And we've certainly talked about those issues in the context of Reed's Farm, where we have a lot of freedom campers utilising the river for cleaning and utensils or washing themselves. In approaching this issue, as officers, we believe that your first step as governance is to find where you sit on the continuum. At one end of that continuum, you could look to be very encouraging of freedom camping, look to be quite enabling about where it can happen. At the other end of the continuum, you could look to be quite restrictive, as some other councils have done, and provide very limited options about where freedom camping can take place, bearing in mind that you can't put in place a complete prohibition. You need to work out where you sit on that continuum, because once you've established that, you can then start to look at the areas that you wish to open up for freedom camping to enable those objectives to be achieved. What you've got in the report is a list of areas that were tested through the recent consultation exercise at the end of November. I would like to stress that that list should be used by you as a starting point. It's provided because that's the list that we consulted on. However, you may wish to add or remove sites depending on the feedback in the report or what you have heard and read through that consultation exercise. Officers' view is that that list contains a reasonable capacity for dealing with the freedom camping numbers that we're likely to see in the near future. In many respects, it's a compromise. It's sitting towards the middle of that continuum that I talked about. Now, if you wish to be a more enabling council, you may want to add more sites. And certainly there's been feedback from some members of the community to say, let's really open the doors and be more enabling and see if we can get more of that economic benefit. Conversely, you may wish to remove sites off that if you wish to be less enabling and you're more concerned about those user conflicts and that conflict in the community, particularly the local community. From a process perspective, once we've got an idea from you about those sites, we will rebuild the draft bylaw and we will rebuild the statement of intent, and we'll bring that back to you in February, the 7th of February, where you can approve that and then we'll go out for that formal consultation. Actually, the last thing I just want to add is, I think it's the next item on the agenda is Reed's Farm. So please also bear in mind that this project and Reed's Farm are intricately connected because of that freedom camping theme. So the timing of this will impact on the timing of the Reed's Farm consultation, because we intend for those to go in parallel and then for you to consider the submissions and conduct your hearings at the same time as well.
Sorry, just through the chair.
Councillor Park.
Thank you. Nick, former council, we passed a resolution for Ferry Road, didn't we? Was it passed by resolution that we allow self-contained camping?
Correct.
Can we not go back out, or can we not add Ferry Road to this and consult on it again? Because I think quite a strong feeling is that we take these away from the lakefront, take camping off the lakefront. So I would have thought that that site would be included as well.
You can definitely add in any sites that you wish to, and what you would have seen in the attachments was a long list of additional sites which have been raised through that November consultation exercise.
Okay. Well, I'd like if my colleagues support it to add Ferry Road back into the mix, please.
Councillor Eckling.
Well, I think I'd be opposed to that, Your Worship. I think the idea behind the freedom camping was to try and get the campers off the lakefront, per se. So that's why I was looking at the Rickett Street area, which seems to be compromised and acceptable by the Caravan Association or Camperman Association. I would really like to see them off Ferry Road, full stop.
Just through the chair, I think, sorry Councillor, that's sort of what I meant. If we go out and have it in the mix, then we have the ability to decide its future, I would have thought. The status quo, if we don't take Ferry Road into account, means that it stays, doesn't it?
No.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's
Is that
mine.
okay, Councillor Parker?
Yeah, no, that's
I
fine.
definitely, the general feeling is out there that we want
As
to.
long as we just make sure we've got it covered off, because we don't want to take it away and then have people say, oh, it's been there for ages.
Yeah. So we're going to be clear, as of right, they can do it now. So through this process,
Yeah, that's what I was getting at, but if it
Make
is
sure,
disappear, as long as that's communicated, I suppose.
okay.
Through the chair. I
Councillor
think having been part of the working group, the last three working groups, I think there's obviously support for and against. So I think obviously we thought probably if it's a draft bylaw going out for consultation, it can still, if it's included, it can still be, depending on the consultation, can be kept or taken out.
You can do it, if you're showing a bit of intention there, that Ferry Road's still under consideration, I think. It's, the whole idea of the thing is to try and get it
Yeah,
out.
sorry, through the chair, I will withdraw that because the intention is to take it off the lake, not to reconsider, I understand. Got it.
No, just as long as we go through the process, make sure that's actually done.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Any other questions of Nick? Councillor Rankin?
Can I just clarify with you, Nick, the consultation group, someone asked me whether it had any campground operators. It did.
Yes, it did. It had representation from the national group as well as local campground
Thank you.
representation.
Through the chair.
Councillor Williamson?
Obviously, with it's almost say it's either free camping or freedom camping, or free camping is obviously all with non-self-contained vans that, that don't want to use the facilities like that. They are very, very good camping grounds, and as opposed to freedom camping, who are self-contained, who may or may not stay in camping grounds. So obviously we need to have a situation where we can encourage people to go to camping grounds, but also accept that people aren't going to do that. So by perhaps offering, I was questioning obviously with Coromandel, Commander Robert Street, if they were to be allowed or considered as in the draft bylaw going out for areas they can park or overnight, there has to be some pretty strict rules around that.
Okay, well, perhaps what was the best thing to do, Nick? Go through this list of the locations
Yes.
to see if we're all on the same track on that. You've got, obviously, you've consulted so far and you've got, so many support, so many opposed on page 33. So perhaps go back to page 25, Reed's Farm. So we're happy to consult on the basis that all camping's there. Rickett Street, which is the new particular area that we've identified, which appeared to be, we were pretty happy around the council table about it, but you've got quite a few opposed to that. I presume they're schools and things like that, are they? Or
So in that locality, you've got the Kura, the Kaunihera, and a couple of preschool operations, and there was definitely some feedback of a negative nature from those operators, concerned about things like rubbish and security and danger to children. So we were getting some feedback, and very similar with regard to Horomatangi Street, which is abutting onto the playing field that the Taupo Primary School used. They were raising similar concerns about danger to the children and additional rubbish and security issues.
so can those issues be addressed during the bylaw process? Or
Yes and no, and the reason I say yes and no is that there may well be management responses that can deal with things, but as I said at the start, you're also dealing with perceptions, and we can't necessarily change perceptions through a management response, and perceptions around the safety of children is something that's very difficult to try and address.
okay,
So you wish it. So was we recommending to actually use Coromandel Street for parking of these vehicles?
we're very much looking for a direction from you as governance.
Is that what the working group looked at, was actually parking
Or through the chair,
on Horomatani Street near the children's?
yeah, through the chair, there's a few parks there with a toilet block as well, so obviously even with
That's what he
self-contained,
was looking at.
yeah, self-contained vehicles are still often prefer to be where there are facilities like that, yes. So there was an option considered.
That was supportive of the working group was supportive of that. Aramatanga Street.
To be very clear, the working group didn't reach consensus on a full list and the same level of support for every site.
They reached agreement away from the lake. That was
Yes.
Yes.
about where they went from there. Everybody's got their own views in this process.
And there were definitely different views based on the level to which people thought that as a town we should be motorhome friendly. So if there were people who wished to see a very enabling approach, then they wanted to see more areas provided. If there were people who were less inclined to be enabling, then there were a few areas that they saw as appropriate, but they weren't so concerned about what we could possibly term secondary sites. So I guess that's why I made the point, you really need to work out where you sit on that continuum, and then you'll have an idea about how enabling and therefore how many areas, how much capacity you wish to provide.
Through the chair, you've just had a pre-consultation process where ratepayers have responded with their thoughts as per page 33. I think you need, from a consultation process going forward, to be seen to listen to what people say.
Okay, so was anyone on that list there? Probably the best way forward is an absolute no-go.
On Horomatani Street, there was 17 opposed it, and only one for it.
Okay, so take that
Rickett
out.
Street was surprising,
Well,
30, sorry.
Yeah.
Rickett Street was the same, 51 against, 21 for. Turangi Town Centre, personally I'm not a fan of having camper vans in our car park, it's right outside my office.
I thought they were going to park there.
Yeah, they're right outside my office.
Yeah, good.
No, it's not.
Great.
We'll put them in your car
They might
park.
want to buy houses.
No.
Okay,
And the discussions at the community board were the same, if I'm not mistaken, you were there, Tina and Gareth, there was discussion about that, I can't remember fully, but I think the community board weren't too keen on it, they were wondering why it wasn't on that other car park close to the toilets, was the questions that were raised. Is that correct? The question was raised by Charlene, I think it was. Yeah, why it was so far from the public toilets, and you mentioned about being close to Tongariro Junction. Yeah, I'm not a supporter of that.
Okay, what's the best way forward here, Nick? Like, the general feeling is we're still happy, we're still okay with freedom camping.
Yes.
Perception is that we're happy with freedom camping, but not in the lake margins or close to the lake. So these are the options here we've come up with. So what I would like to know, and whether I need to go around the room, I'm not too sure whether got that way. It might be a long-winded process, but are these going to be included in the bylaw process or not? So let's cut to the chase. Reed's Farm, yes. Rickett Street, I know there's a lot opposed there, but I myself personally, I think it's certainly it's still in the CBD, and it's vacant land. It's unproductive land at the moment, you know, it could, to me, it seems a sensible, logical place, but I can understand the concerns of the educational people and things like that, but whether we can address those through the bylaw process, I get some support around the table for that, or?
I think
Councillor
too,
Rankin?
I've had quite a lot of feedback just on the street, and people think Rickett Street is hideous and that we shouldn't send people there, but we are going to make it look pleasant, aren't we? Which is what I've kept
Work would be required to do some levelling, clear away all the rubbish, the weeds. You could create a pleasant outlook. We discussed with NZMCA, got them out on site, talked about the appropriateness of that site. They were supportive. They could see the potential there.
So I think a lot of people felt it's just horrible place.
This could be an opportunity to actually to do some stuff down there too.
Mr. Chairman, in regards to Rickett Street, what's the costings for the infrastructure? So effectively, the ratepayers will be picking up the cost of that infrastructure.
As is noted in the report, this is not free camping because there's always a cost. And that cost comes in terms of people having to pick up rubbish, clean toilets, provide toilets, as the case may be at Rickett Street. And that cost falls on the ratepayer. So while the camper may be making some economic contribution to town, the cost of their facilities and the maintenance of their facilities falls on the ratepayer. That's the reality. In terms of Rickett Street, we've signalled that if you were going to make that a substantial area for freedom camping in the future, we'd expect that you may want to look at providing some toilet facilities, because the indication is that even self-contained campers like to have toilet facilities. We'd expect that there would be some rubbish receptacles in place and therefore some operational costs associated with that. The costs of levelling some area, clearing away weeds and so on, we can do the basics in terms of existing budgets, but those additional costs of putting in new toilets, as an example, will be something you'll have to budget for as part of the annual plan process.
Through the Chair, in addition to that, there is part of that Rickett Street area that is potential commercial development land. So I would not like to see that opportunity removed.
It's all the horizontal infrastructure here too, isn't it? Underground infrastructure.
Okay, Rickett Street, yes or no? Around the room, Councillor Park?
I'm not in favour, but I'd be. This is about consulting on sites widely, so I sort of why are we sitting here nitpicking through the sites? I'm not quite sure why. Why just consult on them?
So all of them?
Let's consult and
Explain the
see what ideas
It's a
come out.
bylaw process, so we go out again with the selected sites.
So 2 documents will go out for the community. One will be a draft bylaw, which will have the sites that you wish to see freedom camping take place on. And then the second document will be our statement of proposal, which says why are we doing this bylaw, why do we think it's necessary, which sites have we decided to include for which reasons, and which sites have we decided to exclude, and what are the reasons for that. So for example, Ferry Road would be sitting in that statement of proposal with an explanation of why we don't believe that Ferry Road is an appropriate place. So the community will see both of those documents and have the opportunity to provide you submissions on both of those documents.
Well, I'm sorry.
Leave them all in.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I mean, I haven't been a fan of Rickett Street from the start. If that's what the question is.
So what's your suggestion, Nick? Leave them all in and then people will tell us?
It's very much your decision as governance.
Yep.
Through the Chair, there was quite a decent consensus with all these sites, with the working group anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Just to clarify,
Councillor Hickling.
Your Worship, Alan, I'm assuming when you're talking about the commercial site, you're talking about that road close site in between the 2 commercial buildings. So can we because obviously that's important from a council's point of view. Where's the map? How if we keep that site as a commercial site, how would we access it? Would we access it right off the corner of Rickett Street and down, one access, or
No, I think you would come off as at Waikato Street.
Yeah, well, that's the commercial side.
Well, the commercial opportunity exists
Well,
in behind the two existing sites, I believe.
So go behind 20, 34 and 44. See those numbers by the buildings? And behind them, that
20, 34 and 44.
yeah, 20, 34 and 44. See that bit on the left there, those buildings?
Yep, yep.
The land in behind that, we've had some interest being shown as far as commercial development.
Okay, because the piece outside of 44 was actually a road closure some years ago. The green piece at the side of 44, I thought that's what you was meaning as a commercial site.
The interest that we are starting to hear is actually behind those buildings.
Okay,
But
All of 20, really.
so in fact, it could, who's to say that it doesn't,
could be an access to it.
yeah,
Is that what you're saying?
doesn't come into the T as well.
Yeah, yeah, okay. No, I just didn't want to put the map out if we feel that there's some commercial gain.
I'm just flagging that it's not all of Rickett Street. Yeah,
This is showing that it is all of Rickett
Yeah.
Street though, isn't it,
yeah,
for camping?
exactly, and that's my concern.
Yeah, so do we need to draw a line and before it goes into a public arena?
You can approach
I think
that,
we do,
yes.
surely. I mean, there's plenty of room up towards the Rickett Street corner for freedom camping, surely.
Plenty of room at the
Yes.
top, yeah, so.
And keep
So,
that
yeah,
commercial,
perhaps we could adjust that plan.
and keep that commercial.
Boys and just see where we could adjust that, the line on the plan.
Certainly,
Yeah,
Please.
do that, Nick.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Thank you,
Through
Barry.
the chair, the same at the other end near 55, which is a early childhood centre.
We actually talked to the Early Childhood Centre about the potential to stop that entrance at that end and actually create a turnaround area further towards the bottom end of the site, I guess. So there are some little management solutions that we can put in place to address some of their concerns about vehicle movements. I guess what you need is some direction from the community about the principle of having camper vans in that locality.
Okay, all right, so leave it in there with boundary adjustment. So Horomatangi AC bars, so the suggestion here is to just put them all out and then we'll soon hear back as to what's not desirable. How's that sound?
That's fine.
Agree with that.
Okay, so in the recommendation there, 5 bar 2, insert the areas as per page 25.
Yes.
Yep, happy with that, Nick? And perhaps have a look at that boundary change, where there are some commercial opportunities. I would not like to let commercial opportunities disappear, that's for sure. Although bearing in mind, we'll still own the land.
Those sites that you're talking about on page 20,
Yeah.
25, they're the ones that you consulted on last time. You probably page 31 those are the sites that the public can come up with. Are there any in there that you wish to resolve that, bring back to include at this stage?
Through the chair, I'd be quite happy just to go with the consensus of the working group. We've worked closely on it. And stick with page 25 sites.
Yeah, this, through the chair, this obviously with the consensus, I think, with staff, with their discretion, but also Riverside Park, a pretty touchy one. Obviously, that was discussed with the working group. There was obviously divided opinions on that one. And I know even with discussions at council chamber the workshop, wasn't it? With obviously conflict of users and et cetera, and maybe environmental aspects, but I'm not too sure why it can not be included on the draft bylaw to go up for consultation. Even it was just a few parks down there. There are facilities down there. I'm staying neutral on it. I'm not saying without prejudice. I'm just saying could it be put on the list as well?
And they got the dump there.
the reason that wasn't put on was, I remember I spoke about it with you at the workshop last time, was that the sealed area there, you've only got about 4 or 5 car parks.
Yeah.
Five car parks there.
Well, that's all it took,
So that was, and those are used relatively heavily by people who are using that area in terms of dog walking, etc. So that's why you didn't put that on, 4 or 5 sealed car parks. You could put it on and see what comes back through consultation. And what we need to make really clear through the process was that we were talking those sealed car parks rather than when people say Riverside Park, I think they imagine it's going back to the campground, and no one's talking about going back to a campground.
Okay. Yeah. What's the feeling on that? I think we might be opening the can of worms.
Yeah, I think we might be opening the can of worms, Your Worship, on that one.
Yeah, outside councillors' homes. That's a good idea.
I'd prefer it not to be on the list personally, just because I've been involved with it for such a long time.
I find it quite fascinating, Mr Chairman, that we're discussing the Riverside Park, which is where the old camping ground was, but we're going to probably create another camping ground somewhere else, which could be Willet Rickett.
Well, we did when we closed the motor council body.
Which one did you open?
Top 10 opposite the golf course.
That's still going?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I say we did, that's what we did when we closed the campground in town.
Again, don't confuse yourself here. This is not about
Camping, no.
This is about allowing cars to go and park.
Yeah,
People to
2
stay
nights.
overnight. They're 2 different things.
1 night, 2 nights.
Campground Rickett Street, capacity within the campground is fine, but they're 2 different.
Yeah.
Okay, is there any on that list? McDonald's, Burger King, car park. Is there any appetite for that one? Fun. Don't think so. So I think there's enough car parks in the other, and that's where we put in the charge station too, isn't it?
So, just through the chair, can I actually move the recommendation on page 22 inserting the sites listed on page 25 as the areas, please?
Okay.
I'll second that.
Moved by Councillor Parks, seconded by Councillor Hackney. Thank you very much, Nick. A couple of sticky ones here, so that's good. And we look forward to this process going forward. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried.